Very nice. Thank you so much. Today we have with us the Honorable Stacey Newman. She is the Executive Director of ProgressWomen, a statewide social justice group focused on justice and equality issues. She served 9 years as a legislator in the Missouri State House, retiring in 2019. Stacey has been a longtime activist in protecting abortion and reproductive and voting rights and for gun violence protection or prevention. Thank you so much for being here with us, Stacey. Let's give her a big warm welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me this morning and for making me get out of bed. But I have a little story about that first before we start. First thing this morning, as my normal routine, I read too many national editorials before my coffee. I read about the day after the Supreme Court decision affecting Roe, that doctors are now considered criminals in many states. Secretary of States are readying to decertify our votes in the next elections. And the January 6th committee this past week issued more loud warning bells to us if he is allowed back in the White House. It was all I could do was not go back to bed. I felt very paralyzed. I'm like, how do I get out of the covers and come here? But I kept thinking about these words that have been running around in my brain the last couple of weeks from my granddaughter, who's 11 years old, and was told by her parents about the Supreme Court decision and the idea that maybe their family was going to have to move to Canada. And Maya said, who is going to stay and fight? And that kind of went right through me. Because to be really honest, as a former legislator, I've seen a lot of this coming. As Trish said, I spent 9 years in the legislature, and we tried to warn you from the things that we've seen, but there hasn't been enough of us. And I want to let you know before we start, I don't have all the answers, but what I do know is I care strongly, deeply about protecting our democracy. So I'm going to ask all of you, who among you is willing to stay and fight for our country? So I'm going to take a little breath so I can keep going. So as Trish also mentioned, is this, maybe? Yeah, give that a try. Did you turn it? There. As Trish also mentioned, I am the current Executive Director of ProgressWomen, and this is a mini part of a series that we've been doing for the last 4 years around the state. It's part of our Gov 101 series. So today you get a very brief synopsis of it and hope that it will also fire you up. So again, I'm asking, please refuse to be silent. So I know what you're saying. You're saying to yourself, I'm just one person. I live in a real conservative, state, conservative legislature, conservative electeds, and I'm really, really busy with my life. But I'm here to say again, are you willing to stay and fight? So the first thing you have to start with, I mean, it sounds kind of common sense. Do you know who represents you right now, today? And the reason I'm going to talk about the state versus national is because more policy that affects all of us is enacted in state legislatures than it has been at the federal level. This has been happening for years. So I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. Do you know who your state representative is? All right, look around. There's not a lot, not the whole place. Do you know who your state senator is? You guys, we have to start there because this is where it begins. So it may sound daunting, but you need to know who every single one of your elected people are. You need to know who represents you on your local school board, your public school board. You need to know who your county council person is. Again, you need to know who your local mayor and even your county executive. I'm presuming many of you are in St. Louis County. If not, you need to know who's in charge of your county. You need to know your state representative. Yes, you need to know your state senator, congressperson, and hopefully you know the names of both of our senators. You've got to start here. If you don't know, it's really easy. You can do it right now on your phone. Go to house.mo.gov. All you have to do is put in your address, and it'll pop up, a whole list in terms of your state electeds. Yes, we're going into elections. Yes, many of them are elected over and over, or come up on our ballots every 2 and 4, 6 years. But you got to start by knowing right now who they are. Here's the next question. How many of you vote in every single election? Raise your hand. That's great. I can't stress that enough. It's every single election. Every 2 years in April, we elect our local school boards, we elect our local electeds in municipalities. August 2nd, we have a primary election coming up, a statewide election. This is when the majority of your state legislature is actually elected. November 2nd, obviously people are already talking about the general midterms. You need to know what's on your ballot. You need to know more information about, are you currently registered to vote? Have you moved since the last election? Does the election board have your current address? Do you know where to go? The great thing in St. Louis County, you can vote from any polling place. Did you guys know that? You can go to any polling place because your ballot is printed on the spot. Again, go to stlouiscovotes.com and you can pull in there and you can automatically check, are you registered at your current address? This is why we tell you to vote over and over and over again. And as a former elected, there's nothing more discouraging to look at what these voter turnouts are. Last April 2022, when we had a lot of contentious school board races throughout St. Louis County, 19% of you bothered to show up. Now let me clarify that. That's 19% of registered voters. That's not everybody who's eligible to vote. Last November midterms, these are all basically St. Louis County numbers. Last November of our midterm, well, our presidential election in 2020, we had a good turnout, 79.2%, again, St. Louis County. I want to clarify these. These numbers are only of registered voters. Look at the last time we elected our legislature. State reps are up every 2 years. Look at the number there in August of 2020. Less than 40% of St. Louis County people bothered to go to the polls to actually vote for your state rep. And then again, go back 2 years earlier, the last midterms, St. Louis County didn't even make 70%. Again, it all happens on election day. This all happens because of you. You're the ones hiring the people, making the decisions for you. And this is a real important date. The last day to register or to update your address for the November midterms is October 12th. If you've got young people, you've got people that you know have recently moved. My daughter just moved from Kansas City, and in all the hubbub, we realized, oh my gosh, you've got to go get in there and register immediately. This is an important date. So here's some wonky secrets. I don't know if many of you know, and these are, I'm speaking as a former candidate. Did you guys know that your voter history is public? It's public record. Not how you vote, but if you vote. So I can look out, if I know your address and your name, I can look up to see if you actually bother to show up to vote. And the reason this is important, particularly for candidates who are running, because as candidates, they do not have the money, and most importantly, they don't have the time to somehow contact each one of you. So what they do is they target basically people who are frequent voters, people who show up consistently, because again, there's not enough time and there's not enough money to get to every single registered voter. The one thing that candidates cannot do is make you vote, is make you get out of your house to actually show up. And here's another important thing, and it's important once the election's over and the legislature is back in session, is that candidates don't switch their positions. If they told you where they stand when they're running for office, that's how they intend to vote. So there's no magic thing in terms of once you're elected, you're a blank slate. They're telling you right now where they stand on the issues I hope that we all care about. So the third thing you have to do, you figured out who represents you, you figured out that you're all the election dates and that you have to show up. The third thing is you have to figure out what you care about. And me, that's hard because it goes through so many different issues. But if you would start with the thing that is most on your mind, you can look at what's currently being talked about in the media, or what candidates are talking about, or what you're hearing basically from the media. But this is what I would suggest. Pick one of these issues, pick all of the issues, pick something that you most care about, and go with that. Go with that issue in terms of how you yourself can affect it. Here's some more wonky secrets. So every single issue, so hopefully you've got your issue locked in your head right now. That'll help us. That issue is affected by your local, by your state, and by your federal electeds. And every candidate who becomes your elected is coming in with their own focus, not just yours, but coming in with the things that they want to address or the things they want to fight. But they have their own priority, their own issue focus. That's really important to remember. And not every elected, I'm not talking about parties, not every elected has your issue at the top of their list. And really the most important thing I hope that I stress today, the time to be apolitical, the time to say, I don't really care about that, or it's too divisive, it's too this, too that. The time for that, you all, is over. So this is a recent statement by Senator Raphael Warnock a couple weeks ago that I thought went to the heart of this.
Well, I'm going to let the committee do its work. And I think what I've learned, again, what all of us ought to be learning, is that democracy is not a noun, it's a verb, and that it is the most precious thing we have, and we have to fight for it. We have to fight for it over and over again. And what this has done for me is deepen my resolve to remain vigilant, to remain focused, to register as many people as I can, to vote, make sure every eligible voice is heard in our democracy. That's what's at stake.
It's not a thing, it's an action. It's a thing that we need to be taking action on. So here's what you can do. All right, you know you're elected, you know you're committed, you got the election dates on your calendar, you know your issue. The next thing you have to do is find your people. A lot of you are sitting right here. Find your people, find your community, get more of you. Once you have more of you in your issue, volunteer. Find out what is actually needed with that issue, what's needed in your community. It's easy, but it's important. Donate funds to the issue. And this is a real hard one, but you have to show up. I mean, that's part of democracy. Show up, be vocal about the things you care about. We can no longer let other people do the work that we need to be doing. So if it requires a protest, if it's a rally, do whatever you need to do, but show up and be vocal. Activate your own networks when you found your people. Again, you all have families, you have friends, you have neighbors, you have businesses. Activate the people who also care about those issues so you can become larger, become more vocal. And the last thing is, go where the need is. A lot of times we try to come up with the need ourselves. I mean, it's all coming from a good place, but go where that need already is. So this is what you can do right now. I'm repeating myself, but find your people. Do you all realize right now, looking at this group here, I had several different contentious re-elections when I was in office. I had an election that I won by 1 vote. And I look around at this, at your group right here. Do you guys realize that you sitting right here have the power, just in this auditorium, to affect an election, to affect a race? So again, when I say find your people, you're all sitting right here. Make sure you and your people are registered in November for the November elections, and train them. I've just trained you very quickly on how to go find your ballot. Again, Secretary of State's site. You can pull it up right now for the August election, exactly what's on your ballot. You'll already know before you walk in. You can do the same thing for November, but you make sure that your people know that too, so they know what's at stake. Again, I told you St. Louis County, you can vote from any poll. If you live outside of St. Louis County, you have to go to your polling place. Train your people on how to do these things, because your vote can turn into 5 votes. Your vote can turn into basically affecting an election. So be a vote leader. Like I said, we can't, candidates, issue groups, you name it, we cannot make you get out of your house and show up to vote. No one seems to have that power. If we don't have that power, then that's why I'm pleading with you that I just told you what's at stake. And I know I worry so much. I mentioned my daughter again. She's a middle school or elementary school counselor, just moved to St. Louis. Her work is in danger if you don't show up to vote. There's ramifications for all of us. But you're not finished. After the election in November is when things get real serious. Real serious. And I want you to be thinking after the election. Our legislature goes back into session the beginning of January. I think it's the first week of January, and I need you, I'm begging you, to be paying attention to what our state legislature is going to be doing, the issues they're going to be focusing on. Please pay attention to our governor and the things that he is saying and wanting and advocating for. Yes, it's 2 hours away. It's a drive, but I'm also going to beg you, as you're paying attention to the legislature, please be thinking of how you can show up, how you can testify, how you can be part of a hearing just by sitting in the audience, by supporting, or by exposing what you believe is wrong. Again, Jefferson City, 2 hours away. We have many hearings, and of course, COVID has made that really difficult the last 2 years. We have so many public bill hearings where there's no one there, and this stuff is just going. So please, I'm asking you, pay attention to who you elect in November, or who is elected in November, and what they will be doing in January. This is so important. I mean, and I'm speaking from both sides here. Once we've done our work as voters, it is our responsibility to make sure that we continue to hold our electeds accountable and responsible. It doesn't matter if they're your friend. It doesn't matter if they're in your same party. You have to be on your state representative, telling them, keep telling them what your priority is, and making sure that you're following exactly what they're doing and how they're voting. It's really not hard, but I can't stress enough that if we really want things to change, if we really want our electeds to be responsible to us, we need to make sure we're holding them accountable. So this speaks to me. As a Jewish person, it is the concept of tikkun olam, which is the Hebrew for repair the world, which has driven me in terms of my own activism and in terms of my own work as an elected. But this is the thing that I think about all the time. Whoever saves a life, it's considered as if he saved an entire world. To me, this is heavy, but this is true. And I want to point that out. Don't let anyone get bogged down into it's only this many people, it's only this many 10-year-olds, it's only this many people who are actually affected. We all here have the power to affect one life, and the ripple that would create is powerful. This is another video. Let's hope no glitches, but a couple of years ago, John Lewis made these remarks at a convention, and every time I listen to this, again, it goes right through me and it spurs me on, hoping it'll do the same for you.
When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have to stand up, speak up, and speak out, and find a way to get in the way and to get in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. You and I are partners. We are part of an ongoing struggle to redeem the soul of America. I got arrested and went to jail 40 times during the 60s. Beaten and left bloody, unconscious, but I got up and I never gave up. You must not give up. We are working to build what Dr. King called the beloved community, so we can leave a legacy of love, unity, and peace. Marriage equality was a critical step, but the struggle is not over. There are forces in America today want to take us back, but we come too far and we made too much progress to help people in this country and around the world come to grip with one simple truth, that we are one people, we are one family, we are the human family. I must tell you, as one who gave a little blood on that bridge in Selma, the vote is pressure, and we must get out there and vote in this election, and vote like we never ever voted before. And I want all of us to be committed and dedicated to the point that we are going to fight. That you may get weary, you may fall down, but you must get up and continue to fight.